the discipline of comparing what is in our heads that makes claims about the real world to the real world. You know, if I like unicorns, and I do, my daughter's 3, I see a lot of them. So if I like unicorns, that's fine. I'm not making an objective statement that unicorns exist. But if I make an objective statement about reality, welcome, reality. If I make an objective statement about reality, then it has to be objective. That's sort of a truism. So, there are 2 tests for truth. The first is internal consistency. Put a mathematical theorem out there, put a scientific hypothesis out there, whatever you want to call it. The first test has to be, is it internally consistent? Right, so if I hand you a 200-page mathematical thesis, and on the first page it says, for this thesis to be true, 2 and 2 have to make 5 for a pie and a unicorn at the same time. How many pages in are you going to get? Well, 1, I guess, just to read that. You're not going to go any further, because I've set up a contradiction at the basis of my thesis. It doesn't matter what happens on page 200 if page 1 is a contradiction. So the first thing we look for is internal consistency. And the second thing we look for, if internal consistency is proven, is empirical validation. So, what if I say to you, there's no such thing as universally preferable behavior. There is no such thing as universally preferable behavior. Does that make sense?
No.
Why not?
Because that statement is an assertion of universally preferable behavior.
Right. Yeah, if I'm saying there's no such thing as universally preferable behavior, I'm saying that you should not say that there is, because it is universally preferable for us to say true statements rather than false statements, and your statement is false and does not conform to reality, and it is universally preferable for our stated thoughts to accord with reality. I cannot say there's no such thing as universally preferable behavior. It's similar to saying, I do not own the effects of my actions. What's wrong with that? It is tricky stuff, so, you know, if it's foggy, I do not own the effects of my actions. Well, you don't, see, the best arguments are the ones where you don't have to bring anything from the outside in. How am I contradicting myself when I say, I do not own the effects of my actions? My argument is an effect of my actions. My argument is that I do not own the effect of my actions. But my argument is an effect of my actions, which is talking and holding a microphone, and right, you understand? This is, I mean, the foundation for property rights. I've had people literally argue themselves blue in the face with me, saying, Steph, you don't own your argument that you own the effects of your actions is incorrect. It doesn't make any sense, because they're identifying it as my argument. Did you see? It's not that hard to make sense of philosophy. And the reason I started off with philosophy sucks, sorry, ethics suck, well, philosophy is all that, ethics suck, is because I don't think that ethics are that complicated. Because if they're that complicated, we can't be bound by them. How many people feel morally bound by, 200 books of tax law? Anyone? Right, I mean, because if we can't understand the law, we can't be bound by it. This is the problem with ethics, is that if ethics is so complicated that 3,000 years of brain-bending, forehead-melting, hair-eating human thought has not produced a system of ethics that we can understand, how could we be bound by ethics? If it's so complicated that we can't get an answer that makes sense, we can't be bound by it. It's asking the impossible. Yeah. You understand, okay. So ethics can't be that complicated, but it's really hard. You all get into ethical discussions, I'm sure, all the time. Doesn't it feel like you're rolling down a barrel with rabbit LSD monkeys biting your eyes out sometimes? You know, like it just feels really crazy and complicated. I don't think it's because ethics is that complicated. I think it's because of what we talked about this morning, that ethics was invented to serve evil, and we're not allowed to actually universalize that which we're told is universal. So it's like trying to do a math problem with 2 people yelling numbers in your ears. Right? It's hard to do because we've got so much propaganda. But what if ethics is actually really, really simple? So, I'm not going to go through the proofs for this, that, and the other in the book, but I wanted to point out that the first thing that we do when we start a debate, if we want to really be intelligent, I would argue about it, is we think about what does it mean to actually have a debate. Well, it means that there's an external standard of truth. There has to be, otherwise you can't have a debate. There has to be an external standard of truth, otherwise it's believe because I say it. So there has to be an external standard of truth. Has to be objective, has to be rational. And truth is infinitely preferable to falsehood. I mean, all these things are implicit in the very act of having a conversation with someone. You don't have to believe any of these things. You can be, you know, some Ted Kaczynski character, live in the woods your whole life and so on, but who cares? Because you're not part of the social discourse, you never debate with anyone, so you don't show up and it's not on the radar. But when you debate, you're accepting all of these implicit things. So, ethics. This morning we talked about the 4 major double plus ungood human activities that ethical systems need to work with. Aristotle made an argument, it's a really good argument I think, which is to say, if you come up with an ethical system that can prove that rape is virtuous, I don't care what you've done something wrong. You know, like that's just not right. Now, I mean, I know we come up with ethical arguments that says that taxation is theft, and for a lot of people that seems quite as bizarre. But I do sort of agree with that. You can't come up with an ethical system that says, yay murder, yay theft, yay rape. It can't work. Because we all have these ethical instincts, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be a philosopher. I mean, a dog can catch a ball. He doesn't have to know physics. So, here's where we get to the audience participation part. This kind couple, not an actual couple, these nice 2 people have agreed if you can come up. I'm going to take you through a couple of the proofs of what I would consider to be a good approach to ethics, and then you'll see if it makes any sense. Yeah, come on. Now this is, you may end up on YouTube, but it's okay. It's tough to get on YouTube, so they really are. They're really passing over a high hurdle here. Okay, so before having them act out various ethical scenarios, I have actually checked that they're not married. Because sometimes that can go awry. Okay, so, universally preferable behavior, well, first thing is it has to be universal. And what that means is that it has to be achievable by everyone all the time. It has to be achievable by everyone all the time. It has to be a behavior, not a thought, because thoughts are not empirical, thoughts are not scientific, they can't be tracked, they can't be traced. You can trace behavior, you cannot trace thoughts. So universally preferable behavior. So let's look at, let's start with murder. All right, I couldn't get my props, I'm afraid, through customs. Anyway, so if you could just turn to this lovely young lady here and just, if you could put your hands on her neck. Gently, but pretend, but gently. Okay, so here we have, not good. Right, here's hoping there aren't security guards in the hallway. We're going to call someone. All right, so here we have, so let's put this, thou shalt murder through universally preferable behavior. Thou shalt murder. Let's see if that can work. Don't try, no, okay, don't. Okay, so this guy is choking the fine young lady here. So he's able to achieve thou shalt murder, right? He's in the universally preferable, he can do it, he can achieve universally preferable behavior called thou shalt murder. Now if you could take your hands and put them on his stubble. Excellent. Look at that, it's the slightest hug. So now they're both achieving thou shalt murder. What's wrong with this?
One of them will fail. Dead.
Well, yeah, okay.
Go first.
They might, okay, it's unlikely that they'll both kill each other at the same time. They could, theoretically, I guess, pass out at the same time. Will their hearts up at the same time? So it can't, they're actually not killing each other yet, they're just trying to. So right now they have, because murder is the death thing, right? Otherwise it's assault or whatever, right? But murder is when the person dies. So right now, this guy is not able to achieve thou shalt murder because he hasn't killed her yet. She hasn't been able to achieve thou shalt not murder, thou shalt